Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. If you want to find out more about what we do, you can go to officehours.global. Our first hour is general discussion about virtual and media production. Second hour is usually something we want to spend a little bit more time on. Today, we're going to talk about my studio. So we're going to use my studio. I'm designing a studio, and we're going to use my studio as a context just to brainstorm about all kinds of things related to studios and so on and so forth. We're going to do that every Monday in December as I get ready to build that. And I won't listen to all of the suggestions, but I'll listen to a lot of them. So I have a proposal that I'll show there, and we'll talk through that in the second hour. Tomorrow we'll talk about Zoom audio setups. What are we all using here in panels? We do this every once in a while, and we'll just talk about what we're using, what changed, and how we're using that. Wednesday, last week we talked about $20,000 studios. This week we're going to talk about $5,000 studios. So if you've got $5,000, what would we spend? We'll talk about that on Wednesday. Of course, Office Hours 2.0 update on Thursday. And then getting the most out of Office Hours. We do this every once in a while just to kind of talk through how to make sense of this because we don't really give you a lot of guides. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. And then, of course, Saturday is the long day. We have education at 8 o'clock. We don't stream that. You have to be on Zoom. And then we'll be back to Todd Reynolds' house on at noon next week. There's a link in what we sent out. By the way, if you check your email, for those of you who are registered into the Zoom session, you will see 2 weeks of agendas. So we're giving you more warning. I didn't put the descriptions in for the second one, but you'll get the sense of it. So anyway, but I put some links in for you to do research. So hopefully that makes it easier on everyone. I actually sketched out 2 months of stuff, and so we'll put that up later in Discord, and we can all talk about it and whether people agree with it or not a little bit later. Anyway, so now we're going to go ahead and jump into the questions. Liberty, why don't you take it away?
All right, our first question comes from Dennis Champion Walker in South End on Sea. Does anyone have recommendations for a short tripod that would put my camera at eye level when the tripod was standing on my desk? It would need to be robust enough to support my teleprompter, which is approximately 9 pounds.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I didn't read the whole question. Robust enough might be an issue. I just bought one of these. It is quite stout. It's $37. It even comes with a little phone clamp. I know you're not going to use that, but the sidebar thing, it has added benefits. I used a desk mount dual monitor thing that I was able to drill a hole in the desk, also quite stout. I think in general, I wouldn't look for something that takes up 3 legs worth of space on the desk. I'd look for something that could be mounted as a single pole or something like that.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I'd be very careful because you said you want to mount your teleprompter on it. I'd be very careful because most of these small tripods have these ball levels on them, like that one or the Joby. But if there was another one here, Velborn, something like that has a pan tilt head on it, might be able to hold the tripod, hold the teleprompter. But you got to be careful because teleprompters typically are not balanced very well, depending upon the weight of your camera. I'd suggest getting something like a robust arm, such as this monitor desk arm, and then attach the prompter to the monitor to the end of the arm, and then tilt it 90 degrees so it's facing up. Because most teleprompters have a VESA mount on the back of the monitor. So you can use that to attach the teleprompter, rotate it 90 degrees. It'll take up a minimum amount of desk space, and it'll be robust enough to hold without it tipping over,
Yeah, the thing you're looking for if you really want to set something on it is a hi-hat mount with ball head. Then you can put any kind of tripod head into it, and that's going to be 3 short legs. They're this high, so you can do that. Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I would suggest separating the desk from any kind of mount, because any kind of shake that you have on your desk is going to translate over to that prompter, and it's going to show up. I'm using a Triad Orbit stand. It's pretty heavy duty with the base, so I can move it around where I want. So the tripod sits with the camera off, separated from the desk, so I can bang on my keyboard and it'll still.
Are you using the one with the 3 legs on the bottom that are like low down? And then,
it's super heavy. The base is like ridiculously heavy.
Yeah, we got those for our Ozos, and then I still have one, and it's awesome because you can put it right behind a desk because it takes almost no displacement behind it. It's also, if you're doing spherical It's easy to paint out, which is why we have it. Go ahead, Rupert.
I was actually able to use Courtney's suggestion there of the articulated arm. I do have a very solid desk, so I didn't have the wobble problem, but that solution does work well.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
I was going to suggest a triad, but another option, if you want to get a little bit less cost than a triad, is if you look at a music store and find a microphone stand, not the three-legged ones, but it's actually a metal base microphone stand, and then go to the sports store and get like a 10-pound weight and put it right on top of that, and then you get a little adapter on top for the top of the mic mount to hook up the camera. You can then put your stuff on the floor. It has a very low footprint past the desk, and then you'll be able to use it. You'll be able to raise it and lower it easily.
One of the things that Twit did is actually they cut out of, I think, 1/2-inch metal. They cut a base out of it that was about a 1.5 feet in diameter, and then they welded just the long bar of a C-stand. So they took the legs off the C-stand and welded the base of the C-stand right to that piece. Then they get extended up and down, and they used it actually for a tripod and camera, and it worked really well. It's just really heavy, so you just have to kind of think through that. Next question.
Our next question is from Danny Law in Malaysia. Need to live stream a private live event this Friday to selected viewers only. Target audience no more than 400 people. What is the recommended method to do so? And how's best to gather and rank questions?
Go ahead, Rupert.
The best platform for questions is clearly Mukana, but you could, if you need to restrict your audience, you could look at doing this in Zoom events. I mean, your attendee numbers there would fit into the base license for Zoom events, and you could then restrict your access, and you'd be able to do some Q&A through there. They have some voting mechanism in there, so you could look at it if that suits your use case.
Yeah, the only thing you get from a streaming platform with more latency than Zoom events is quality. So your frame rate, quality of that frame rate, all of those things get better when you start to actually stream if you're willing to not have it be in real time. What we pay in Zoom for real time is the fact that we don't get high frame rates all the time or high resolution, one or the other. So that's the only thing to think about related to Zoom. Vimeo is a great private, label solution for that kind of thing that's relatively cost effective. Next question.
Our next question is from Douglas Carmichael. What barriers do you see to broader adoption of the Belfast method or Mobley process?
Go ahead, Rupert.
I'm not sure there really are any other than time and standardization. It's going to take time to iron out the process and standardize some of the things, and obviously work with venues and producers that want to adopt it. But other than that, I think there's nothing holding it back.
Go ahead, Sky.
No, that to Rupert's point, it's yes, the producer's attitude, because they need something that they know is a thing that's going to work for them. If they're creating a service, being paid for that service, and they don't know this tool or trust it, they're always going to go with what they trust because that's what the client is paying them for. So it's
Jeffrey.
More attitude.
Jeffrey.
I would say security for higher end stuff, and then of course communication. So it's going to be easy to find people to mix a Pink concert, for example. But when it comes to something that I would do or anything like that, you might have a harder time trying to find people. So getting the word out there to let them know how they can do it and how that how cool it is, then that's where you'll get it. Go
ahead, Guy.
Well, right now it's spinning up G4DN instances. I'm getting DMs from Greg Gibson right now. No 2 or 8 XLs available to spin up in his region. So, I mean, it's showstopper, literally.
Yeah, at the moment. Yeah, and so I think that's those are the kind of things that we have to for the Mobley process. For the Belfast method, it's a little bit more like we don't require as much hardware, as much in the cloud. So I mean, that's one of the advantages that we have with hardware is that we don't need the instances at that speed. I think that the first step is that we have to make it a lot easier to build. And right now, it's still a bit of a science project to put it together without Jonas and without a lot of other folks that are doing a lot of the back end, and Jim and many other people. ready yet to make it widely available. I think once it's ready, the goal is to make it so easy that a marketing team at a company can run the event. Not that we're not going to, I mean, I don't know, we're not trying to sell anything. We're not making, but we're not trying to promote it to, existing like big production companies. They'll want to do it their own way. And we're promoting it to the smaller, I think that we're going to end up promoting it to the smaller producers and the marketing teams. And when they start out producing what the larger producers can do with the product, then it's just lighting a fire on the other side of the field and letting them come to you. so anyway, so they'll show up because there's nowhere to go. So anyway, so that's kind of the easier way to do it. Next question.
Next question is from Mitchell Hill in Wilmington, Delaware. Is the iPod still the best portable music player? And if so, what do you use for speakers?
Go ahead, Jason.
Best is a difficult term here, but I would say the short answer is probably yes, because the interface is extremely easy. The DAC is relatively powerful and pretty accurate. The downside is it doesn't, at least the earlier iPods do not play Apple lossless. So yeah, long story short, probably. And the speakers I use are Mackie monitors.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I was just looking up on Amazon as far as the speaker goes. People are mostly using their phones now. I've got, 5,000 songs on my phone that I stream out to the HomePods for at home, but you're looking for a portable speaker. And Anker has the Sound Core 3 at Amazon for $49.99. It's got 24 hours of playtime, titanium drivers. It's waterproof. They have custom EQs for home, outdoor, and beach. And seems like a really good travel speaker for you.
Go ahead, Rupert.
So for a travel speaker, I love this thing. It's the Bose SoundLink, and it's Bluetooth or wired. But for travel situations, it really is really good, and it's also has a microphone in it, so you can use it for like a conference call or something. I've had very good success with just putting this in the middle of a table for 2, maybe 3 people.
And go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, most people, you don't really have an iPad, and most portable speakers, I kind of like this JBL for like $179. It has a power bank built in. It's waterproof. Something like that. And most of these portable waterproof speakers have a USB port on them where you can build a playlist and put all your music on there and stick it in and just play it. You don't have a display to pick and choose your stuff. That's the main downfall to it, but it will just play through a playlist for you if that's what you want to do on a portable speaker.
Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I'm using the Sonos for the Play 5 for the portable speaker, but I have it hooked up to Alexa, so the nice thing is with that is you could just ask to play a certain song or a certain genre and it'll just play it. So I don't know how portable that is, unless you have the Wi-Fi version. For something a little more robust, I carry this big old PD150 from Fender. It's got XLR in, so I can still tie a mic into it. It's got 2 speakers that you can pull off, and then it hooks back in and you can pick it up with one hand and carry it away.
Yeah, I have to admit, for outdoor speakers, ones that I can carry around, I tend to use really less expensive ones, actually. I usually won't spend more than about $70. I think there's one out there called the W King 50 watt. I think that I'm about to order because I broke the ones that I have, but I had some cheap ones that I used for years. The reason I do that is because I take them to the beach, and if I take them to the beach, I want to make sure that if someone steals it or if it gets tons of sand in it or ceases to be working, it's not like a heartbreaker, so it's just kind of like I just don't want to worry about it. Next question.
Our next question is from Guy Cochran in Seattle. What PC app is so compelling that you would boot camp your Mac?
Go ahead, Rupert.
So for actual boot camp, for actually booting a Mac into a Windows environment, there may be some use cases out there for, if you've got firmware updating tools that, only run in Windows or things like that. I've seen other very bespoke applications, but quite often you're able to run those in parallels, within macOS without having to boot the whole PC into Windows. Mm-hmm. And whatever the application is, you've also got to look at whether it's going to get suitable access to the hardware to actually do what you think it's going to do.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So I would guess the panel here would all be in agreement that vMix would be the one app that you'd want to do the boot camp for. For me, when I was able to boot camp, I had a 2012 MacBook Pro. I'd boot camp all the time, and I'd actually use Wirecast in boot camp, not because the Mac worked better or worse. It was more the fact of the configurations. A lot of my configurations of different programs are all done on Windows machines. So being able to go portable and use the Windows side on that, the processor always was decent, and the hardware was always working inside of Windows a lot better than some of the other laptops that were out there. So that would be it would be more about configuration than an app per se.
I go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, so here's the culprit. My MacBook, it is an Intel MacBook Pro 16 that had been sitting here that was supposed to be for editing, but since I haven't been on the road traveling, I caved and wound up buying Universe on Black Friday sale. So I wound up programming some buttons to do DMX control. I put an NDI window in, was able to control the bird dog all in one interface. So Universe only runs on a PC. So my MacBook is now a PC.
Yeah, I think for me, Universe is the thing. Although, yeah, that's the one that would probably pull me over. Universe and vMix. Next question.
Our next question is from Tobias Moss in Minneapolis. Programming begins today to bring together the Sanctuary's PTZs, Tricaster, QSC loudspeakers, and QL1 mixer. What goes into programming?
I think a lot of it, it depends on how people set it up. I think when most people say programming, what they mean is really getting all the setups done. So you're going to, how do you want to handle lower thirds, and what do you want to do with super sources, and how do you want to, presets for all your PTZs, presets for all your mixers, so really setting it up so that you're ready to go for a show, which usually can take often a day or two, at least. Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I know QSC has some of the stuff that you can do inside of Universe. So yesterday when I was laying out this layout, it was on a 24-inch touch screen, and it just had all kinds of ideas popping through my head of, start record, PTZ to this location, preset 2, so Sanctuary, baptismal font, just like boom, 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 boom. I could hit all these spots. So it just depends on what it is that you're programming. If you're in that QSC world, or if you're in that Universe world, and who's going to run it? Do you have volunteers, or are they paid positions? Because some stuff can get pretty complicated pretty fast. How many buttons do you want? Do you want one for audio? Do you have a dedicated audio engineer? So there's a lot of questions there to begin programming, and how simple do you want to make it? And do you want to have an integrator come out and program all that stuff for you, and then have to call them when you want a button change?
Next question.
Our next question is from Aaron Husledge in Durham, North Carolina. Can we take a moment to congratulate Vienna Tran on becoming a doctor today?
Dr. Vienna, Austria. Yeah, so yeah, there we go. Yeah, great. Great work, Vienna. So we can't wait to see what we do. We all know that we're just going to be like, we knew Vienna when. So we'll just keep on watching you.
You will talk to us from Mars.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be when we're doing the live stream from space. It'll be great. All right, next question.
Our next question is from John Pewitt in Huntersville, North Carolina. I'm looking to set up a VPN between my home and a friend's home. What is a reasonably priced way to do this?
Go ahead, Rupert.
If you just needed to get something up quickly and reasonably priced, I'd probably do this with pfSense. You could install that on some spare hardware if you have that available, or you can get the Netgate appliances, but it'll give you a pretty robust firewall and VPN solution.
It's all time and money. So for me, what's reasonable is a Meraki, just because I don't want to deal with it anymore. Otherwise I'd probably look at the Ubiquiti. I think the Ubiquiti Bridge is another solution that probably is a little lower cost than the Meraki. But the Z3 is relatively inexpensive, and it means I don't have to think about it. So anyway, that's just something to think about there. Next question.
Our next question is from Sky Gleason in Seattle, Washington. Can you keep a secret from my wife, the teacher? Where can I get the best Cyber Monday deal for a new M113 MacBook Pro? Costco, Best Buy, B&H?
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, there's 3 places to check. The first place I would check is the Apple Store for Education. Because your wife is a teacher, she gets the Apple discount, and they usually go $200-$300 down. And sometimes you might be able to find a deal a little bit better, maybe $30-$40 more. But Apple Insider has a buyer's guide, and MacRumors.com also has a buyer's guide where they show you who's got the latest deals of what's going on. So you got 3 places: the Apple Store for Education, Apple Insider, and Mac Rumors.
Go ahead, Jason.
Michael nailed it. That was perfect.
Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I like this place called iPower Resale. This is where I've picked up my last 2 computers that were refurbs, significantly lower prices. So I'll put the link in, but it was pretty shocking. So I would check there first.
Yep. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So as for Cyber Monday deals, the only thing that I've seen on Cyber Monday deal from Apple, only 2 things I've seen are their AirPods Pro and the AirPods. And then there was a Mac 21-inch iMac that was on sale on Amazon. So that's the Intel Mac, nothing on M1 that I've seen. These are all deals that you can find on a regular, everyday basis from these other locations.
Next question.
Thank you all very much.
Our next question is from Keenan Campbell in Princeton, Illinois. I heard that there was a graduation ceremony. Congrats, Dr. Vienna Tran MD from Austria.
We're all very excited for Vienna. Go ahead, John.
I watched it live with the boys on After Hours last night. I set an alarm so I could get up. Alex, just like you, I go to bed early.
I tried to stay up, and then I suddenly woke up this morning. So I was trying to hang on.
The room that it was in was very interesting. I was wondering. I don't know if she's listening in the chat room, Makana, but I was wondering if that's the same room that they did that last event. Her and Carl. That was my question.
I don't know. Next question.
Our next question is from George Butters in Halifax. After a heavy week of online conferences with abysmal audio and video, spent the weekend with a migraine and measurable eye strain. This does not happen with office hours. Are there others experiencing the same symptoms?
Go ahead, Rupert.
And it is certainly easy to be affected by that stuff. I have now just taken the approach to not attend those kind of meetings. If I get into something and it's got those kind of problems, then I just back out pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I have had the problem of eye strain working on programming for a long period of time where you're staring at one screen for a length of time. You're focused at a fixed distance, and it's best to get up, walk around every hour or so, go outside and focus on, infinity for a while with your eyes, and that gives them a chance to relax. Also, I find my posture, find a good chair to sit in so that you're not hunched over the keyboard. And my back will go into back spasms, and it'll be very painful for me a lot of the time. But I have had problems with that, and getting up, exercising, moving around, and focusing on the distance solves a lot of that problem. And with office hours, we're always got multiple screens going, so you're looking around all the time.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that just the video quality, we definitely don't pay attention, or people doing these events aren't paying attention to the cognitive load of poor audio and video. Like, it's just, there is an impact on all of your viewers. And if people really got clear of the cognitive load that is being applied to all of their viewers, they would shape up. But they don't think that way. Everyone keeps on thinking that this is going to go away, like they're going to somehow go back. My guess is, I'm laying odds that sometime this week or next week CES will cancel its physical thing at this point. And at that point, at some point, people have to realize that like it's not just the COVID, it's the behaviors. Like, we're not interested in doing that anymore. A lot of people, not enough that it's just not going to make as much sense, so anyway, next question.
Our next question is from Douglas Carmichael. When Alex mentioned his high AWS bill, that was the exact barrier that has kept me from diving into learning AWS. Would there be any sandbox services that would enforce a set spending limit you can't exceed?
Go ahead, Rupert.
You can set limits with AWS, either for alerts or hard stops. But there is the the free tier with AWS that you could get in there and experiment. The trouble is with using any other platform, you're not going to get familiar with using AWS as a platform in terms of the control panel and all the back end stuff.
Yeah. I want to make sure it's clear. I wasn't that surprised. I mean, I knew that it would be there'd be a number there that was investing. It was 20% more than I expected, but that was just because I hadn't done it before. So now I know what it costs. So that was, and it was mostly because I didn't look at the number. I didn't look at the bill. It's just significantly more expensive to stream in UHD than HD. So that's what I was kind of aware of now. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, all the training I've taken for corporate has been through AWS, through third parties, but they required you to set up an AWS account and use AWS. But they also then walk you through tearing down the AWS infrastructure so that you don't get billed and charged. And even during the free time period, which I think is like 6 months, you can get billed for excessive use. So be careful of that.
And the bottom line is you just have to be, with anything that you're doing as you're doing testing, you just have to be aware of what you're doing, so you just have to be checking, just a matter of being conscious. You can't just set things up and set them and forget them. That's all. Next question.
Our next question is from Scott Mueller in Germantown, New York. What's the best pseudo surround sound system for a location where rear speakers wouldn't work?
Go ahead, Jason.
I've used both JBL and Samsung soundbars, which are excellent, but anywhere that rear speakers aren't going to work, you got to understand that pseudo surround sound is almost always using the reflection up from a ceiling. So my immediate thought is a soundbar going to work at all?
Go ahead, Rupert.
This is going to be the second time I mentioned Bose in the same show, but I used to use the Bose Cinemate. It was essentially a 2.1 system, and that thing was incredible. It used to generate sounds that I used to try and look behind me and see where they were coming from. It's an older product now, but if I were going to buy something, I would find out what the current equivalent is and get that. It was really, really impressive.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fan of the Vizio 2.1 soundbar. They're under $200, and it's gotten reviewed under CNET as one of the best soundbars for under $200. You got to realize that it's the psychoacoustic. I mean, the acoustic image that is formed by a soundbar requires you to sit in a fairly specific spot for it to work effectively. So you're limited in your viewing range or listening range to a sweet spot, and keep that in mind with soundbar type systems that have a psychoacoustic modeling of surround.
Next question.
Our next question is from Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington. Fellow panelist Tobias opened up a new gift to himself, a Stream Deck. How is he going to use it?
Go ahead, Tobias.
Yep. Thanks to, I think Jeffrey shared that there was a $99 deal on it. So that's what sent me forward. But working at a synagogue, I teach religious school, and I like to have lots of bells and whistles with OBS to make GIFs appear and different scenes and share screen without sharing screen. So just to make that at my fingertips is the first use, and take it from there.
And welcome, Tobias. Your first answer.
Thank you.
So well done. Welcome.
Appreciate
here.
it.
We're glad to have you. Next question.
Our next question is from Sky Gleason in Seattle, Washington. The film Red Notice is now #1 on Netflix Film in 93 countries, including the US, and viewers have logged 129 million hours watching it on the week of November 15th. Viewers have since given the film a whopping 277.9 million. What does that mean?
Go ahead, Alex.
I think it's the star power still exists, whether it's in theaters or whether it's on streaming. So that's the first aspect of it, because it's got 3 big stars, or 2, depending on how you look at it, on a matter of opinion. And it shows that there were 60 million attendances, the equivalent of 60 million attendances in the first week worldwide, which is probably high compared with theater releases worldwide, but still around the same ballpark. But the other aspect is that there are other stuff that is in the top 10 that aren't about stars, at least stars in the US or the West as well, such as Squid Game. So story counts too, especially unconventional stories.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
Awesome movie. Great, well written, well shot. And you don't have to give it any kind of discount because it's shown on a streaming service. And I think it's sort of portends that eventually people are going to get tired of going to the movie theater. And I hate to say that, but traditionally it's just much more comfortable to sit at home and watch a great movie, as Red Notice, that's done well. It again, no excuses being made just because it's on Netflix.
Go ahead, Sky.
Well, that was one of the first things I noticed when I watched it. A, star power. B, it was globally shot, and I think it was on location. So I know one of the historical issues about the Depression was the theaters were very popular because people wanted a release. So I think in this time of where we are in history with the situation we're in, people still want that adventure. So I'm just curious about the distribution channels that we're talking about here, but people globally, and that's the third note, is at a flick of a switch ish, Netflix can send created an entire new audience in a different location in the planet. So the lower barrier to entry. So that's where I guess I'd love to hear Alex's wisdom with regards to this new distribution model.
I was watching. I went the other direction a couple nights ago and watched The River Runs Through It, which I hadn't seen in maybe a couple decades, and I have no idea what got into me to watch it. I just was like, oh, I saw it, and I was like, oh, I remember liking that movie, and I watched it. It was one of the things I took away from it. I mean, it was good. It's a good movie, by the way. It's really, you forget how good a movie it is. But they were at a picnic and there's people playing live, and you realized, oh, right, back then in 1920 something or other, the option was people playing at your party, or this horrible little cylinder playing this scratchy little, and no one would ever consider that there was some point where that audio got better, got to a point where, it was good enough that we stopped having people come to everything live, and it became, a better thing. And we still do live. It's not like we stopped having bands show up at our events. But it means that became a much smaller market, in that area. And I think that and this is just the arms race of AV, for a personal user is passing theaters for most of us. Theaters haven't been able to keep up with the average theater. So there's IMAX and Dolby, and then everybody else, and with everybody, and the seats have gotten a little bit bigger and the other thing, but I think that it's really hard to keep up with the fact that people are going to have 8K, 65-inch, 75-inch screens, with surround and everything else. And once you have a good TV and a good sound system, you stop going to the movies. Like, that's the reality. That's what no one wants to say, is like, as soon as you have that, it crests over so as soon as you have a 7, it's a 7.1 to me is the turning point where I see people just that and about a 65-inch 4K monitor TV, and that's it. Like, they're not, and they still go to the movies for a little while, but then they just, when I talk to people about it, they just, it's just, oh, that's really hard, and I can just do this at home, and that's
I realized as you said that you would go to an event because it's an event, it's a big thing, or price. I would go to the $3 theater that would run, quote, just off Broadway. So
yeah, and so
even then I wouldn't go anymore to the $3 theater maybe.
Yeah, and I think that people's behaviors are changing. I think COVID changed their behaviors permanently, and they just got used to something else, and now they don't want to. It's not that they don't want to; they don't have any strong opinion about it. It's just their life is filled up in some other way, and it's just an inertia that's hard to, something in motion tends to stay in motion, something at rest tends to stay at rest, and that's it's just basic physics of the process. And so I think that I will say that the future is going to be. I mean, we're about to see the streaming networks be the biggest thing in biggest game in town. Like, it's the theaters are about to fall to the radio, or radio was really big, and then it was TV, and then TV was really big, and then it was but I think that at this point theaters are something you do every once in a while as for a special film, But even Dune, I really wanted to go see, and then I just never got around to it. Like, I mean, I saw it at home, but I just never got around to going to the theater. You know, it was just like, oh, I got to go all the way into the city. And Courtney.
Yeah, in the 20s, it was tough to hire a cylinder jockey and he couldn't scratch easily on the cylinders because they were zone drive. But I was going to say that I kind of take a differing opinion. I think because of COVID and people have been holed up in their homes for like 2 years now, I think there's a yearning to get out for the social experience. And I think movies will see a bit of a resurgence as soon as, whatever the variant, as soon as there's a dip in COVID contagiousness where people are brave enough to go out. Because I think they miss that, seeing a comedy in a room full of 150 people or so is a completely different experience. Because, you miss stuff if you don't know where to laugh. You may not get the joke unless you hear other people laughing, et cetera.
I have one thing that's going to kill theaters, I think, more than anything else, Christopher Nolan. Like, the guy who loves theaters the most is, I will not go to a Christopher Nolan film in the theater because I don't understand what anyone's saying. Like, I don't understand what they're talking about. And so I will not watch a Christopher Nolan film without the captions on. And it's one of the few, I hate captions, like during a movie, but I can't understand the plot line. Let's build a complex plot line that's really adventurous, and then let's make sure you can't hear anything. It's just nutty. Go ahead, Alex.
My policy on Christopher Nolan movies is to only go to industry screenings that are actually put on by the distributor. So then they have to actually make the exhibition any good, as opposed to going to a normal. I know that's a bit of an elitist response to that one, but that's the thing about being in London. In general, I think one interesting aspect of this might be how the movie industry has to move away from measuring movie success by the opening weekend. The opening weekend values, where the contracts are based on, how much more you're going to spend on promoting them in distribution and also in ancillary markets and stuff like that. Because if the opening weekend isn't going to be a thing anymore, if they start coming up with other stuff, other ways of measuring success, because it's a bit like as if music charts, when there was music, the 80s and 90s, it wouldn't be how long the record stayed at number one. It was more like how long it was going up and down the charts. And that was actually a definition of success in music, certainly in the UK. It wouldn't be how many sales did it have in its first weekend selling in that first week. So I think when they start changing economics a little bit, that may change the pressure points, and so things can work in parallel a little bit more.
Go ahead, Sky.
Yeah, two last points would be the numbers is what it, because it's a business, and that opening weekend, Alex, is a brilliant point, because I've seen movies, we've all seen movies that have Fred Rogers' movie. It went from one weekend to 14 weekends, and it made $25 million that it wouldn't have expected to, because it grew in its audience. The other thing is, yes, Netflix is looking to put this in Cinemark, which is a specific chain that is a bigger event space with food and drink and all of the other. You go there for an entire evening's experience. And I guess the third thing is for Tobias is, as we're looking at the numbers of a thing, while an event that happens in a certain time for a group of people, there's a small number that watch it live. But as I'm watching my Sunday morning experience, there's triple the numbers at the end of the week on that same YouTube statistic. So I know we're not entertainment in that sense, but just in a trying to calculate numbers of a thing.
Go ahead, Jason.
An adjacent point, and I'll be quick. I saw the Nutcracker this weekend, and it was wonderful. They required vaccination and masks, but about 10 minutes in, I completely forgot about all of that. It was absolutely wonderful. So I think theater will come back more readily than movies.
Yeah. What I also think that we'll probably see is not a lot of theaters, but I predict in the next 5 years, you'll see at least 10 to 15 theaters owned by Amazon, Apple, Netflix. They're going to have their own theater change in major markets where they release the films. And this has a lot to do with the Academy, and being part of that. But it also means that they'll be in LA and New York and places where a lot of actors are, because they want actors and directors to see the films in a theater because that they're still in that mindset. So they'll keep but I predict that, and they will be the nicest theaters we've ever seen. like they're gonna they're because they don't have to make 1,000 of them. They'll make them they'll have 100 speakers and 4K projection and that type of thing. That's my prediction. Next question.
Our next question is from Jens in Sandpoint, Idaho. What are people's recommendations for wireless hearing assist devices? The newly elected mayor is 85. I have been tasked with helping him hearing in meetings. Everyone in the meetings is using Shure Microflex Mics or remoting in with Zoom.
Go ahead, Jason.
I'm going to give you a bit of a curveball. So if he's 85 and probably didn't develop hearing loss yesterday, I would try the Bose conversation enhancing headphones. It looks like he's wearing headphones. They don't look like hearing aids. I don't think they're made anymore, but you can probably buy them second, gray market. Give those a shot.
Phonak, Phonak. They are the leaders in that area. They make hearing aids. They also make wireless, basically completely low profile. Like when you watch a Jack Bauer and he puts a thing in his ear, that's a Phonak, or it's that style. And for something that's near field, the way you're talking, you could easily give it as much juice as you wanted, and then it'll be extremely low profile, and you won't see the Phonak will go right into his ear. You won't see anything go over his ear, and he'll still be able. So he doesn't have that appearance, but he'll be able to hear what people are talking about if you send it to him. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, with Unity purchasing Weta Digital, is Unity the engine to learn for virtual production for Mac users?
I'm starting to think so. I mean, I think that, we're going to keep on working with Unreal. I mean, we're going to keep on playing with both of them. A lot of us are going to watch what happens in March with Apple. So if we start seeing in March and June, Apple's already put Weta on stage. They used to put Unreal on stage. They're not going to do that again. And so if they start putting Unity, now that they have, Unity didn't have anything to show, but now Unity has Weta Digital. So my guess is that you're going to start seeing Apple promoting Unity in March and June in their keynotes. And if we see that, then that's the signal for most of us that it's probably the right direction to go. So I think that, again, we've talked about this a lot, but I think that Epic's attack on Apple was a massive unforced error. I get why they did it. They think that the metaverse is the thing, and you want to be able to buy and sell goods. That's why they did this. I mean, they want to be able to buy and sell digital goods inside of a metaverse, and they don't want to pay Apple 30%. They're thinking 5 years out. That's why they're having this fight now. But I think what they lost is way more than anything they're ever going to gain. Next question.
Our next question is from Brent Kruger in Minneapolis. Does anyone know of any certifications or training courses for prompter operators?
Courtney.
I don't know of any. The main problem is it's fairly specific, and there's a large number of software and hardware availabilities out there, and there's no commonality between them all. There's no one leader really that has most of the prompting software out there. So to be proficient as a teleprompter operator, you have to know the software inside and outside. But and since it'd be tough to build a training course around all the multiple types of software that are out there right now, so you will find training courses out there for teleprompter coaching and training, but that's mainly for speakers who are using the teleprompter, not necessarily for the operators of it. It's showing people how to effectively use a teleprompter and not look like you're reading.
It's easy to get into. It's really hard to master. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, because there's two parts to being a prompt operator. There's the actual operating the prompting software or tools or equipment, and of course that could be a generic test that you could test them on. And you'd say to them, just bring out whatever tool you want, and we'll see if you're actually able to deal with the speaker and the way that they speak. But a big part of it is actually modifying scripts. It is about working with people, last minute changes, dealing with versions, all that kind of stuff. And that's when it's very specific to the tool that they're using. And they have to be very good at that aspect of the politics of quick changes and saying yes to some people and saying, no, you have to ask this other person, and that side of thing of prompt operating.
Next question.
Our next question is from Jens in Sandpoint, Idaho. Would it be good to get started with a Shure MV7 or a Rode Podmic and Revelator IO24 interface?
Go ahead, Mitchell.
I think you can get the Shure MV7 and to stop right there because you've got a mic that also has XLR and USB, which eliminates the need for a interface. Plug it right into your laptop or your computer, and you got a darn good sounding system. Plus, it's like $30 off today because of Cyber Monday. You can't top that. It's like $300.
It's a great mic to get started. If I was going to get started with any other mic, it would still be the PR40 with, and then you could use the Revelator for that. But I probably wouldn't go down the Rode Podmic direction. Next question.
Conrad Marshall in Atlanta. Any recommendations for controlling the Zoom Spotlight feature using a control surface, i.e. shortcut via touch, versus selecting the feature from submenus with a mouse?
I would highly recommend looking at Zoom OSC, for those types of things where you can start tying those controls into something that's more complex than just trying to use keystrokes. So check that out. That's from Liminal Labs, and Andy, who makes it, is running our edit right now. But that'd be my suggestion. Next question.
Rupert McCray from Dallas, Texas asks, Meta Facebook has contracted with NEC to build another transatlantic fiber optic cable between the USA and Europe with speeds of a half-Petabit per second. Why does Facebook need so much bandwidth?
Well, I heard a rumor. I heard a rumor that someone changed the compression for video on Facebook, and it changed the use of the internet by 15%. Like bandwidth usage of the internet by 15%. Like it dropped in one day. It's serving up all of that video and imagery and everything else is almost insatiable. Like it's just this insane amount of content. So I don't think they could build enough fiber to solve the problems that they have. Go ahead, Guy.
I don't believe I'm going to go on record and say this, but I think that it's going to be AR. I mean, the Oculus and this whole business with putting on goggles, and then we're seeing Snapchat filters where we can just carve out a person. I think in the future, in a few years, we're going to see the benefits of all this work from Oculus, where you'll be able to have a meeting with somebody and it'll be as if they're right there. So
the big thing
coming.
The big thing from a bandwidth perspective is that video chat and streaming video requires way more, like HD video, requires way more bandwidth than the metaverse, because basically once you load that file, once you load the geometry and the texture maps, it is what it is. Like you're now just moving data back. You're moving movement data back and forth and effects data back and forth. So if you're talking to someone in a 3D, it's not streaming that person in 3D. It is sending you the model and then sending movement data, and that is the actual movement data is super light. And so I think that I agree that there's going to be a lot in the metaverse in that area, but I think that I think that's actually lighter than most of the video processing that the movement that they're doing, in my opinion. Next question.
Our next question is from Sam Greenwood in Toronto. Has anyone watched the Beatles Get Back on Disney Plus? If so, what did you think?
We've talked about this a lot, so let's move a little bit quickly through it. Go ahead, Tobias.
My friend owns a guitar shop on the Upper East Side, and a man in a mask walked in, and it turned out to be Sir Paul himself. And they started chatting about it. Paul has watched most of it, not all of it. Thought they did a good job.
That's good. That's really cool. Go ahead, Mitchell.
It was sort of like a fly on the wall experience for me to see the creative process with the Beatles. It was so effortless. And to see Sir Paul doing some of the things he was doing was amazing. But at the same time, it was a little depressing because you saw the moment where George just said, that's it, I'm out of here. And then you saw the beginning of the disintegration of the band. And for it all to end on that rooftop and then have that event get canceled by the police, it just seemed like a bad way for the Beatles to go out. So that part was depressing. The other fly on the wall part, pretty cool.
Courtney.
I thought it was a little too long. Each segment's like 2.5 hours, and I'm about halfway through the second segment. And there are long stretches of just doodling around in the studio where they're creating the songs that were on the Let Be album, but which was interesting to find out that Paul wrote most of it, and that John was always late and would show up at first, and the songs that they attribute to him you'd never heard of before. So that was kind of interesting, and I was always also amazed at the quality of the sound was pretty good. They had a Fisher boom in the room most of the time with an overhead microphone. I don't know what the brand of the microphone was. It was looked like a cardioid condenser of some sort. But it was amazing that they could capture that much dialogue behind the scenes when they weren't on mic, that they were recording in the recording studio.
Yeah, I think that they couldn't release this until George and John had passed. Like I think that, because I think of what I've watched so far, Paul McCartney was the hard worker and Ringo was just a good guy. And it was just, he's happy to be there. So they could, if they're still around, they could do it. But I think the other two would have been really upset with how they came across, which is probably how they were. Anyway, next question.
Our next question is from Tobias Moss in Minneapolis. What would be the default EQ for listening at the beach?
Mitchell, real quick.
Default EQ, that's a tough question, but I think anytime you go outside, you want to overcome what they call the Fletcher-Munson curve. And that is the loudness button you used to see on stereos. It boosts the lows and boosts the highs. When you're in a beach situation, you're overcoming a lot of background noise. So I like that kind of a adjustment. More bass, more highs.
What's funny is in the beach, I actually push it right down the middle because I actually don't want it to travel as far, because otherwise I have other people come over and complain. So I usually push it right down the middle so that it kind of it drops out quickly. From there, I also tend to mount my speakers high and turn them down a little bit, and that's mostly just trying to be a good neighbor in a California beach. Next question.
Conrad Marshall in Atlanta. Given the AV Sync challenge when streaming events, is there a method to figure out how to compensate for Bluetooth audio delay on the far side? Assume non-LL AptX, AptX speaker devices?
Yeah, so we have a way to do that right now. I mean, so the way to compensate for that, Apple has one for wireless. So if you have a wireless speaker connected to your Apple TV, you can actually just point your phone at the TV and it'll figure it out. What's really frustrating is it doesn't figure it out for wired connections. I find that to be super annoying. But if you have an Apple TV with an iPhone, a new Apple TV with a newer iPhone, you can just literally there's a setting in the Apple TV, and you just point at the thing and it'll play something and the Apple TV will just sync it. What I do is I have them to figure out what theirs. If someone wants to know what it is, I have a sync test that I built. And I stream it to them. I put it in something. Someone just has to point their phone at it and shoot a video of it and send it back to me, and I can tell them how many milliseconds they're off. It takes me a minute to look at it. I open it up in an NLE. What we're experimenting with in Isadora is being able to build an app or design an app so that I could do that, and you could just point the camera at it, and then it would just tell you what's changing locally. The thing that we've been playing with the sync is the idea is to create an app that it'll just tell you what your offset is, just by pointing at the TV. And so working on that. Next question.
Next question is from Tobias Moss in Minneapolis. If video games weren't called video games, what would they be called?
A very interesting question. Go ahead, Rupert.
The Matrix.
Go ahead, John.
I think they would be called computer games or just games.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
Pixel punchers.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Universal life wasters.
I think highly interactive environments, something that relates to that, because I think that a lot of what the games are, what makes them, I think, really. What I think makes, we watch view time a lot. I measure view time a lot. View time on gaming on YouTube is incredible. Like the average view times are really outrageous sometimes on Twitch. And I really think, I've been really thinking about this a lot. Whether people take something on or not, the fact that they could keeps them watching sometimes. that the fact that it's something that I think that's part of what video games, they watch the video game because they watch someone playing because they think of how they could use it. Same thing with watching cooking shows. Most people who watch cooking shows don't cook, but they think about the things that they could do. And I think that the accessibility of it, for, folks, I think is part of that. So anyway, I'm going to now switch subjects here, and let's see if I can clean this all up here. Let's see. And now, if you are new to this, we're punching these questions are not lost. We're sending them back to your notes so that you can always bring them back up on another day. Our limiter is not working. So anyway, we're gonna now change subjects to talking about studios. So I started working on the studio over Thanksgiving. That's what I do when I suddenly have a little more time. Is like, oh, let's build a 3D model. And as I started to work on it, and as a couple of us started talking about it, it seemed like there were so many great ideas that were coming up that I wanted to use it as a context for us to talk about studios and what we would build into them and think about it. And so, we'll see it. Either I will keep on modeling this, or someone will show up and want to model parts of it. I know that Tlaloc wants to do the lighting, and so, or I'll keep on working on it. But I'm gonna each Monday I'll kind of show you what we've done from the discussion that we have here, probably other discussions during the week. But we just kind of use the studio that I'm building as a context to talk about ideas and things and why we're doing what we're doing. We may all decide on different ideas around it, but I want to show you what I'm thinking, and then we can just use it as a way to, again, as a contextual thing to talk about. Not talking a lot about the equipment just yet. I have most of the equipment, and I will post some diagrams. My goal is to make it completely. This will be totally open architecture like everything else we do. So as I figure this out, I will make the models available, make the wiring diagrams available, make everything, everything that we're working on how it gets built will be something that all of us can use, and you can pull parts that you like and don't like, and hopefully learn from my mistakes. I expect to probably rebuild it every quarter, probably changing it. And it's one of the things that I wanted to do. So let me show you where I'm at right now with this. And the model will get better over time. So this is a rough model in Cinema that I started working on. My plan right now is to build this all inside it, build most of the architecture inside of MakerPipe. Now, the reason that there's a couple gaps here and let me explain some of the gaps that are there. There's a window right here. So it's a window that keeps going up. And so this is all a window. I'll probably end up blocking it, which makes my wife, she just can't believe I blocked that. It's like a giant window that goes straight up. But I'm going to put, this is a 6-foot table, and I'm going to put all my synthesizers on it. I'm going to build kind of a nice place to set them so that they're easier to get to. Right now they're on just boxes and stuff. This is a workbench that I actually have next to me. So I measured it out and put it there just so I know that I have a space that I can go in and generally stand at to work on things and store things. It'll have like a little backing here, which we'll put in later. Right here, I'll model this into the system, but there's a fireplace, and there's a TV up here. So this is kind of like leaving those as safe. I haven't moved the shelving here. I do plan to put shelves down here and shelves down here. There's a doorway right there. That's the width of the doorway, to kind of give you a sense of scale. So and I'll put a door there. Right now there's a doorway with no door, but I'm going to put a door there. All of this right here, you'll see that I've kind of roughed it out, but this is all right now planning to use some version of MakerPipe. And right now I don't have it set up correctly because I'm not using the right fittings for some of these things. So I'm going to, work on that. Part of what I'm trying to figure out related to that is where I put these. Like I may bring these down a little bit so that I can put these across. What I try to do is if I've got a bar running all the way across here, I want it to be a bar. I don't want it to be a bunch of little bars that are there. It's a lot more cuts, and it's also not as stable from a construction integrity. One thing that I'm going to probably put is a back bar here and here. To just kind of in all of these, I'm just going to kind of run some back bars here to not across every one of these, but enough of them to kind of cinch that up so they don't lean back and forth a little bit. These are this is a 2 foot width, which is what I'm thinking about for this one. And this is a 1 foot width all the way around here. I have a real problem. As you can see, the biggest problem I have in my office is not enough shelves. so I really want to have a lot of shelves. It also means it's easy for me to design new ideas. I can put new things in the shelves. I can, I don't, there's lots of things back there that I can kind of keep on changing and hanging from it. Now, what you'll see here, and you guys can keep on throwing questions in, and then I'm going to, if someone can just pop in while I'm doing this, if someone can just pop in a question and move it over, that is general discussion. I wanted to open it up to the panel first to kind of have you guys give some input there. But yeah, so but no, rather than moving questions over, put one question in that from the panelists and then move it over to make sure it's at the top that lets panelists raise their hand. I just need a space holder for that. Anyway, so anyway, the other thing that I have here, this is a table. Now, right now it's based on a 6 foot table because that 6 foot table kind of works for me right now. So 6 foot table here, but what I'm going to do is build wings into it. Let me, hold on. I don't think I'm being clear about what I need.
I put a general question in.
Is there one in there now?
Yeah, I put a general one in.
There we go. That's what I'm looking for. There we go. Just if you guys want to stack what you want to say into that's great. We should do that more often for second hours. Anyway, so the idea here is that this has got, I'm going to put, this is going to get much more complicated. This I want to put on wheels, and I actually want it to, I'm going to build a whole substructure of maker pipe around it. It's going to hold the camera teleprompter here. But I'm also, and then of course, all my monitors and everything else will all be flying, through here. I'll put in the undercarriage, I'm going to put the Mac Minis and any kind of substructures that need to support the system. And then these are just little work areas. I'm going to have, my Wacom tablet kind of floating here. But the other thing that I'm going to do is coming up from these corners, I'm going to build a structure to hang my lights. So all of my lights, my hair light right here, all these lights here will all be connected to this thing that I can move around. And then the other thing I'm going to do is put a 514 speaker system into it. So literally as I move, my 514 space doesn't change. And so you'll see me put that in between this week and next week as I start to kind of fiddle with that idea. But it'll all be, basic, that basic structure there. And then the part that isn't being represented here is that eventually I'm going to we had some discussions about this in after hours. I'm going to put a railing around here that I can move curtain around it. Not to put behind me. I don't really like curtains behind me. I don't like the wrinkles. So it's either going to be totally flat or it's going to be the background. But I can use it to kill reflections, so that's mostly what I'm going to be using it for. I won't probably put that in at the beginning, but I'm planning to definitely put it in. Some of this is just a cost thing. I was going to raise the floor until I figured out it would cost me $3,000. And I thought, maybe I would just put some pads down. And then the last thing before I open it up is that I just want to kind of say all these things so you know that what we're already thinking about is I'm not using maker pipe for the grid that I'm going to put across the top. So I kind of thought through that, and we were talking about it in after hours, and I was talking to Tlaloc about it. And I'm going to put traditional speed rail, across these top areas because I just need more weight. Now they'll sit on these shelves, so that's part of how I'm going to sit them on the shelves, and then I'm also going to extend them to the walls, and you can get these padded pieces for the speed rail that push against the walls a little bit. That'll keep the speed rail from moving, so there'll be one on each wall that will kind of keep them pressed against the walls and keep it from moving around, but its weight will be sitting on these, and it's not that much weight. I mean, the speed rail will be more heavier than the actual pieces there. Now, also on top of that speed rail, I'm going to put the speed rail into here and build this up and over so that I can put padding across it, because this is a 9 feet high, and my ceiling is another in this room happens to be another 10 feet above that. So I have a lot of headspace that I don't want to use. So that's going to be something else. So anyway, that's kind of a quick overview. Let's jump into our comments here. Let's see. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I too am building a studio, and it got a little bit slowed down because I had to earn the money to make the thing.
Yep.
And
that's how they get you.
Yeah, that's how they get you. This is a slightly different way of modeling things, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the wheels and also about the sound insulation because I've been playing around with that a little bit. I love the idea of putting wheels on. This initially was going to be my desk, and I ended up building a desktop, which is a large L frame, which I could be wrong about this, but I'm going to end up putting wheels on there because good caster wheels, like not the cheap casters, I mean the really good ones with a good lock, I think can make a tremendous amount of difference. I'm also playing around with like yoga studio flooring. And not right where I'm going to be wheeling stuff because it shreds pretty easily, but I'm talking about the stuff that you buy at Sam's Club, and that's just simply for sound insulation. I think that might be a decent thing to add.
Yeah, what I'm probably going to do is at least put I want to put down we got these kind of flat, pretty stiff but interlocking things that are a little bit harder than what you'd see at a yoga studio that will roll over better. And I'm going to figure out which ones they are. They're not the cheapest ones, but they're not the ones you buy at Amazon that are real thick that you get for exercise mats. They're a little bit heavier but actually thinner, it's denser. So I'm probably going to put those across the bottom. It'll still be expensive, but it won't be what it'll take to raise this up. I'm just going to have to do that on another iteration because I don't have a budget for it. So anyway, so that's kind of where that process is. But the rolling around, by the way, is the reason I'm doing it is so that I can rotate it and I can say, oh, I want this behind me, or I want this behind me, or I want something else behind me. Or more importantly, what I really started thinking about with this all built into one thing is I can push it over to the side. So if I want to shoot over here or over here, and I want to do something with that, I want to be able to get my desk out of the way. So that's, if I want to do some kind of put up one of the things I thought of was like, if I want to talk about scopes, I can move this desk way over here and put something in here with a camera and like a bunch of things in there that I can actually control. Mr. Fenwick?
So you answered one question that I had about turning the desk to change the background. I'm going to do 4 air quotes like Preto, to change the set, if you will. And then the other thought that I had is, are you sure you want to be sitting in the middle of all of that if there's an earthquake? I mean, we do live in California.
I actually, I have thought about that, and I actually think that I'm actually pretty secure inside of all of this. I mean, there's things that could fall off, but I don't think that this is going to, when this structure is tied together, I don't think the shelves are going to go anywhere. And I don't think that the stuff that would fall off is going to be, the stuff I'm going to put on here is not going to be super heavy. So I don't think that.
I wouldn't have thought of it except for the fact that Talaluk said I wouldn't hang lights on that maker pipe. Well, and now I'm seeing 8 foot tall.
Yeah, I think
12-foot wide sections of shelves.
To be clear, that the hanging pipe on the maker pipe is because of clamping it to it. The maker pipe itself, I'm sure, will hold the lights that I'm putting in. Even in an earthquake, I wouldn't worry about it. What I'm worried about is clamping them. Like, it's the force that's required that will bend the metal. I don't think that, but I think that, to your point, by putting speed rail up there, nothing's coming down from the top. It's.
So 2 other quick things. The blue strip behind the one set of shelves, is that how you get in and out? On the left side.
This is it's egress to my deck. In my hammock. so anyway, so my so that's nap time. So anyway, so this is right now, this is on either side of the door. The door will be right here to kind of give you a sense of scale. And it's 15 by 20, so it's 15 this way and 20 that way.
And have you considered, just because I think architecturally, it's one of the coolest things. Have you considered going even higher and having one of those cool rolling library ladders? Because I think those are just awesome.
I so thought of that, right? Well, so originally, this area was all going to this was going to be the only shelving when I did the original design. It was just going to be shelving because this goes up. I don't know where the crossbar is here. I think it's like 16 feet or something like that. And so I was going to do that with the rolling. I do agree with you. And eventually when I give this space up to my wife, this will become a library and it will absolutely have books and it'll absolutely have that. I think I agree with you. The library at the ranch had that. And I loved it. I just felt like I don't have that many books anymore though. That's the problem, is all my books are on my Kindle. So I wouldn't have any books.
You still put stuff up there.
I know.
And then last thing, is there going to be a fort up above it with like beanbag chairs? Because that would be awesome too. Like a pillow fort.
Oh my gosh, I could do that.
Just put some plywood right across the top.
No,
let's build a loft above it. We'll span the whole room like an almost floor, and then build all this underneath it.
Oh, spiral staircase. Spiral staircase.
There is enough room up
bat
there.
pole.
And there's cross.
Bat pole. This is your cave.
I know. All right. We'll come back to that. That's like iteration 5, is Alex puts a little cot upstairs, so when he's in trouble for spending all this money on this, he has somewhere to sleep. Go ahead, Sky.
Yes, I was in Home Depot. I looked up what EMT was physically, and just that far left shelf is $400 worth of just that pipe. Is at $10 a pipe.
This one?
Yeah. Each pipe is like $10 at Home Depot.
At Home Depot it is, but you can get it online for less.
Oh, good. Look at the things you'll find out. Well, I was actually curious about the span between the shelving and what material you're going to use, because obviously we've got the old press board stuff that then warps and bends and is not stable after like a month. So I'm curious, what you're going to put plywood in there? You're going to make that?
I'm still wondering. I'm going to talk to Chris about it a little bit.
Yeah. And then are you going to Chris's point, do you secure, how far are those spans?
I believe that this span is, I believe almost
between
10 feet.
structures.
It's like 10 or 11. Oh, the span across here? That's going to be
speed
speed
that
rail.
They are, or are they? Do you believe they are?
It's harder to measure here. I can do it by building something, but it's harder to measure in Cinema 4D than it is in a CAD program.
They look like they're about 2 feet.
The distance between each support.
These should be
That's
3
the
feet
question.
here. So this should
That's
be
the
9 feet. And then I think that I think it's 11 feet right now. I just can't measure it here quickly. And I literally upgraded to Cinema 4D 25 last night because I saw it. It said, hey, would you like to upgrade? And I upgraded, and the entire interface is different. So now I'm just trying to show you things.
Based on the depth of the shelf, I'm guessing that's 2 feet.
So I think it's 11 feet is the length right now.
So 1 foot deep, and then the span is 3
This is 2
3
feet. 2 feet deep.
They're 2 feet deep.
long.
Okay.
Yeah. This one.
Okay.
The rest of them are 1 foot deep. So
see, I'm glad I missed that part of the conversation. And then last question was going to be the desk. Is that going to be of the same material that the shelves are, possibly?
Yeah, I mean the desk is just really important that it's robust, because I'm gonna drill things to it, hang things from it, all that
Butcher
stuff.
block.
So it's got to be a pretty robust. There's a lot going to it. It doesn't have to be. I mean, I don't have to go crazy, but it definitely needs to be able to support. There's going to be all around the edge. There's going to be between monitor stands and other things. It's all going to be supporting.
Where and how is your umbilical cord going to come off of that desk? And are you going to try to tether that all together as one?
So my thought right now is to your point, is to have the umbilical cord go up. So I will do it kind of standard, like literally the umbilical cord will come from here and just go straight up, and it will. I'll be able to move it around in the
Brilliant.
In the grid, because
all you need is power and Ethernet, and you're done.
Pretty much. Like it won't be connected to a lot of things other than Ethernet, because I'll have all the lights once we put these in will be all DMX. So they'll
I've heard Wi-Fi is bad.
So Ethernet and power, and what I want to do is I want to attach. This will get pretty heavy because I want to put my subwoofer on it, on a tray in the back here. as well as, which I got to figure out whether it'll rattle, and there's a whole bunch of things I'm worried about related to that. And then UPSs and everything else will be on this. So the UPS that supports this my plan is to have it actually on it. So if for some reason it got disconnected or something else, it just, that
I could
space
just see
can
you
run
putting
on its own.
mag wheels on the side of this thing and little flames. You're going to be driving this up and down the road. I can just feel it.
I just tell you, you can move it. Like if I was in a big office, I could move a 5.1 setup anywhere in the office. Just move it along.
You'd roll it into conference rooms.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I'd be like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm coming to this conference and I need to look right. So anyway, go ahead, Rupert.
I certainly support the use of copious amounts of shelves. That's good news. The Sky was on to one of my thoughts about the umbilical from the desk there. So that's covered that. But I just wanted more generally kind of your cable management plan, and specifically, I mean, when I've covered walls with shelves, you want to make sure you, if you're going to use the outlets, or if you need the outlets on the walls, you want to get them, get whatever power strips or whatever you need plugged in there first, rather than trying to dig back there after the fact. So what's your kind of general power and cable management plan for this?
There's only 2 circuits in the room, so I don't have to worry about too much because there's not that much available. And so I'm gonna, obviously get it off the walls as fast as I can. Now there's the communications egress, and one of the powers is right in this lower corner. This goes to my server room, which is in another part of the house, and so I'll have to string some stuff from here across through the house to get to that that tie-in, and then I am going to probably put strips. I just don't know exactly where yet. Strips to do that, and then of course deliver one of the circuits. My goal is to deliver one whole circuit to this table, because the table will have most of the stuff, and then everything else in the room will take the other circuit. And I have found that in general, the draw on LED stuff and everything else is so low that I don't expect to go over 800 watts, for the whole room. I mean, I thought it was higher than that. I think I had mentioned 1200 before, and then I did I put a kilowatt in there, and it was between everything that I have, like literally all the lights and everything else, I was at like 650 watts. so now by getting coders in here, it would probably change the structure. And my goal eventually is to take most of any kind of heavy lifting and put it in the server room. But right now, most of it'll float around with the desk, as needed. I am, again, it will be to Chris's point, and Ethernet and power is probably all that needs to, get to this thing. Go ahead, Courtney.
A couple of questions on the 2-foot wide shelves that you have there, and the blue area behind it. Are there walls on the outside of all that blue area? Are there hard walls?
Yeah, this is I'll put this in the next model, but this is a wall, and then there's a sliding door right here, and then a wall.
So the area where you have the sliding doors there are you planning on putting wired equipment or powered up equipment on those 2-foot shelves for background stuff? And you'll need to have access to the back of those shelves.
I just moved it forward because I can't get to the door otherwise. So this is like to get to it there. I can walk through here and then walk around here. Mm-hmm. What I'm probably going to put on these walls is my plan right now is on most of any exposed wall is hanging boards. I can hang cables, have pegboard, that kind of thing, all in those areas so that I can get to have things stored back there.
Are you going to put lights behind those shelves?
Yeah. One of the things I've been thinking about is actually whether especially with this one specifically, I've been thinking about getting kind of faux brick it's actual brick, but it's like an inch deep or half an inch deep, and putting it all back there as a brick wall.
I thought about that too. How well does that absorb sound?
Not super well. Like it's just brick. And so that's one of the part of what I want to see. The other option that I have with all of these is to back them all with some kind of soft backing. Just put backing, like black backing, across the back behind all of these things, and I haven't decided what makes the most sense. With the brick, it also could be something that we could. There are some kind of things that look like brick that are absorbing, and that we could possibly use for for that type of thing as well. Go ahead, Chris.
I know you and I have talked in the past about building a desk, and there was some talk about making it very flexible and iterative. You know, how many times do you want to change? One of the things you want to think about, I mean, you could just throw some plywood up for a desktop, but you're probably only going to do about a 3/4 inch ply. I agree with Sky's assessment that butcher block would be a great surface to use, but it's quite thick, so you can't iterate up to, well, you can, butcher block. How do you know the dimensions of the desk that you currently have driven or drawn?
Well, yeah, I mean, the desk right now is a very standard. It's based on the desk that I have right now because I just know that space kind of works for what I'm doing, and that is it is 72 inches by 30 inches.
Okay.
So it's I mean, it's a standard folding desk because that's what I'm using at the moment. I've got lots of folding desks, so it's going from a very transitory thing to something else. And again, I expect to keep updating it. You know, this is just kind of where it's at, you know, at the moment.
Hey, Alex, have you thought about putting some sort of insulating thing under the shelves to block sound? Like if you were to just put it on the underside of the shelf, that might block a fair bit of the reflection.
Yeah, I'm not sold that it would do very much. You know, I think that's the issue, is that I don't know it would. I think that really what the big thing that's going to reflect things is what's behind it. And again, I also think that when I fill it up with things, that the things themselves will do a lot to cut down on the reflection. The big thing I'm worried about is above me. So
I've never tried to record in 19-foot tall ceiling. That's nuts.
Well, that's why I live in a box right now. So like, you know, right above me, you know, at 8 feet, I have a moving blanket that sits over top of me. And I have moving blankets everywhere because this room is super echoey when left alone. So that's the issue that I have with it.
If it's a gabled roof at an angle, then that'll definitely cut down on the standing waves in the room.
It is, but it's super. I mean, this makes so much, like when it's empty, it makes a lot of noise.
What's the ceiling? Is it sheetrock?
No, it's wood, and it's at an arch, you know, like that. I mean, and it goes up, and the peak is like 20 feet. So it's a thing, you know. You just got to fill that in. But to your point, there are two support beams that go across. I could put a bunk up there. It'd be so much fun. Anyway, with a spiral staircase. Anyway, so
on the good ship Lindsay, we're gonna have to christen it with a thing of champagne at some point. But in the base of it, you probably are gonna want to put a battery backup.
Yeah,
on the good ship. Yeah. Copy that.
All right, let's jump in. We stacked up a lot of questions, so let's go ahead and throw into it. Let's go to the first question.
All right, the first question is from Douglas Carmichael. Have you thought of using A-frame stands or racks like those that Jaspers, and he includes the link, manufacturers for your synthesizers? Most synths people I know use A-frame stands.
Thought about it, but I'm probably going to build something very specific. Actually, one of the things along this little project that we're taking on is that I'm going to, one of my plans is to digitize. I'm going to probably try to build 3D models, very rough 3D models, using the Apple, the new object capture. I'm going to take pictures of all my synthesizers and build rough 3D models that I can use them for placement. Like I'm going to place them and then figure out exactly what I want and exactly where I want them to be. And then again, a part of this is a bit of a thought experiment, is that my plan is to actually first pre-visualize that and then build most of it in MakerPipe, because I can keep changing it, you know, and I'm without Chris, how much wood we use will depend on how involved Chris gets, because I'm afraid of wood. Let's be clear. Like MakerPipe totally makes sense to me. Wood, scary. You know, I've done so many bad things with wood. Like just so many, like I've had so many horrible experiences that, you know, I got like PTSD, you know, like a wood trauma. So anyway, I mean, all the way back to wood shop.
Have you cracked it or something? Like,
it just always never turns out it always doesn't turn out precise. So it just makes me crazy. It just drives me crazy, you know. Anyway, it just drives me wood drives me crazy. So if Chris is more involved, you'll see a lot more wood. If Chris is less involved, you'll see a lot more maker pipe. So it'll just depend on that, because I'm not going to try to learn. I do want to learn. I got to build raised beds. That'll be another project we can talk about. But so I'm going to learn how to do that, but I'm not going to build my desk with it. I'm not going to build my desk myself. So I'm going to either buy something that I can get, or I'm going to.
So seriously, the thing you want, it's perfect. It is 6 foot 2 inches. So that's 2 inches longer than your 72.
That won't work. I can't. It's got to be 72. No, just kidding.
and it's 3 feet deep, which we can we can trim
fine.
that.
Don't need to trim it. That 3 feet would be great.
Okay. And it's $300, and it's 1.5 inches thick.
Yep.
It takes oil really nice. It's designed as a kitchen countertop.
I love it.
It's $300 at Home Depot. That's the primary thing, but then you have to build your little wings. And what I would probably do is they have some slightly smaller ones, and we could cut those down.
Yep.
And
see the 3 foot
them.
one, just 3 foot, and then just attach the two of them. I think that would totally make sense. Yeah.
How big are your little wings?
Right now, they're designed to go 2 feet deep, but they could theoretically go 3 feet deep. And they are.
When you say deep, do you mean from your lap back behind you?
They are 2 feet from the desk. They go out they go back 2 feet. So if you, it's 2 feet this direction, and I believe they're 18 inches wide.
Okay.
And again, I can't measure these easily here.
Are the wings permanent, or do they flip up and flip down?
No. Yeah. So I have thought about them flipping up and down. And by the way, they're a little over 1 foot. They're 15 inches. Sorry. So they're 15 inches wide and 2 feet deep, or 60 centimeters by 38 centimeters is what they actually are. I've thought about having them flip, and I'm open to that. But I don't really need them to. The nature, I just know how I use desks. If the desk is available, I will put things on it, and once I put things on it, I won't take them off.
Forever.
Like always my problem.
It's like it feels like there's a lot of work there to be done for what I know. What I will like. I know.
No, it's a good point. Just
other people might not be that way, but I'm not that person. Like, I'm the person that just puts things on it. And like, you should see my work desk just keeps on filling up. And then every Saturday I clear it off, going, I'm going to keep it clear. And then by Wednesday, it's all full of stuff again. So,
by the way, Sky, I finished your A-Town lift over the weekend.
So pretty.
Next question.
Our next question is from Sam Greenwood in Toronto. What modeling software are you using?
So I am using Cinema 4D in a very basic way. Cinema 4D is what I've used for 20 years. And so it's just easier for me to think about it. And I will admit that this is a bit of an embarrassment for Cinema 4D. And anybody who works in Cinema 4D will be like, what the what? But what I don't want to do is I'm not trying to craft anything right now. I mean, I will build higher resolution models, but I'm just trying to block things out. So I'm just trying to think, I need this here. And what I didn't want to do is what's really, I've modeled for a long time. And what gets you is putting lots of detail into your first version not only will it take you a lot of time for things you're going to change, but it actually makes you more resistant to throwing it all away. And so it's really important to build low resolution models first, figure stuff out, and be quick with it. Like, I don't need that. So I'm, so right now it's in Cinema, and you'll notice it will get better. If I knew SketchUp better, I'd probably be tempted to use SketchUp or a CAD program. There's a bunch of limitations inside of Cinema. One of them is that it just doesn't work like a CAD program. I can't do ortho snaps. I can't do quick measurements. There's a bunch of things about it that make it not the best thing for laying things out like this, but I know it really well. And if I make it nicer and I want to do a high resolution render, it will do it really, really well. And so that's why I use it. Go ahead, Sky.
Well, I like the crowdsourcing concept, and we talked about it on the weekend about how to make some of this in a, data sets, of course, that you can buy the little pieces of a tank or a car. Or
well, something. I'm gonna post this. How
do you deconstruct that? How do you pull that?
Yeah, I'm gonna post the Cinema 4D file and a USDZ version of the file by Wednesday. So I just want to add a couple shelves and do a couple of things and post it up there. Like, here's the model. if people want to play with it and say, well, this is what I would do, or this is how I would look at it, I am totally open to that. So if they don't, then you get to see it and look at it. And
well, again, I'm trying to piggyback off of your heavy lifting and all of those bits and pieces.
Yeah. So if other people want to take on playing with it, and playing with the look and playing with what it looks like and doing it on their own, I want them to play with it, because the idea is not that we're building my studio, that we're thinking this is a fairly raw 15 by 20 foot. We were talking about 20 by 30 foot before, but this is a room that most of us could find in our house, except for the height, which I'm not using. So 9 feet by 15 feet by 20 feet. I've got a couple limitations based on some walls and windows and things like in a fireplace, but outside of that, it's a pretty average space, and so it gives us a place to think, and so people can kind of think through that stuff and play with it. If they don't do anything, I'll just keep working on it. I mean, it's not like but if people,
the inspiration for me is watching Preto and what Fenwick have done in the sense of just a wall, not the full 360 experience.
Right. So we'll keep playing with it and having that discussion, and people, I'm wide open to people like thinking about that. The goal would be that we keep on using these discussions as a way to find ideas or approaches that we'd like. Next question.
Our next question is from Chris Widener in Lafayette, Indiana. Are you planning on having the desk be variable height?
Courtney?
Well, if you do make it variable height, it might eliminate the ability to put something like this as on the wings, like a rack space stand underneath that fine wood top, so that you could mount any rack mount equipment in it. And what are you planning on doing as far as drawers, or where to put the ATEM Extreme or
the ATEM Extreme? I'm gonna build a stand for it that it really sits right at arm's length. It's a little over to one side right now. I'm gonna replace the. I'm going to put the X32 in where I'm using a Scorpio right now, because the X32 is going to be tied into everything. Oh, that's and I have to, because one of the things I'm going to do is put where the synthesizers are, I'm going to put an interface for the X32, a Dante interface, so that I can tie all the synthesizers in there and then send them back over to the mixer and then process them there to put them into surround, and so that's kind of that thought process. I will most likely look at where my legs like to go, and then I'll fill everything else with shelving or racks. Like there's no reason to not have a lot of stuff in it. If I've got, the only thing I have to worry about is the weight on the casters and what they do on the floor. So what we put on the floor makes a difference in how much I put on the desk.
Yeah, I think you will find that I've got casters on everything with equipment in it, and after about a week, you can't move it anymore because it's sunk in about a half an inch into whatever surface you have.
Yeah,
that's soft down there.
I think some of it has to do with also the number of casters. So I'm going to probably distribute the weight across. I'll probably end up. I think I'm going to, as I started playing with the idea, I think I'm going to end up with 6 to 8 casters across the bottom.
The desk has 9, and it works pretty well.
So it just keeps on distributing that weight out. That'll make it a little bit lighter to use. And then I'm using, to the point that was before, I'm going to use ball casters, and they're really high. They'll handle like 1,500 pounds each, but they're also super smooth to move around. And so, but they're like $150 each. So I have to, but that's, go ahead, Chris.
I find that some of the space underneath my desk is quite often used by empty Amazon boxes from getting stuff in the mail. So you might want to work
put a little stack in the Amazon stacker. Yeah,
just a place, just a
I
place.
Have a place in my. So I have a place in my garage now that has become the box area where. I have a box. You can see how quickly I have a box cutter right here, and when I get an Amazon box, I literally just take it down. Yep. I literally take it down almost immediately. Just cut it at the seams and fold it up so that I can keep using it. So if you get anybody who's ever gotten a package from me knows that you're just going to get an Amazon box, because I've got stacks and they're all in order in my garage of, oh, I need a big one, or I need a small one. I need, I have all of these, and the ones I don't, once I decide I have too many, I just start, dicing them up and throwing them.
So you save them all in the garage?
I save a lot of them. I don't save them
you
all in the garage.
Much bigger garage than I do.
It's full of things right now. I'm working on. That's another project that we are not going to talk about or show pictures. All right, next question.
Craig McFarlane in Boston asks, what early build out decisions for a home studio will be the toughest? That it jumped, sorry. The question disappeared. So I believe it was the toughest to, yeah, the toughest to make.
Oh, maybe I jumped ahead of you. Hold on. I didn't see one being answered.
The toughest to redo, I think I found it.
Thank you.
Oh, Jason. To redo. Anything that goes into the walls is going to be the thing that is, you know, like anything's attached to the building, and I'm doing everything I can not to do that. So I'm trying to, other than the panels that I'm going to put in that are for even, you know, the pegboard and stuff like that. Other than that, I'm really trying to stay away from attaching things because I don't get to keep this room forever. So, you know, if we get bigger and everything else, I'll have an office somewhere else, and I won't do it in the house, and my wife will claim this as her. She already has claim on it to be her library. So so I can't do any permanent impact on it, or unless I'm willing to pay for it to be returned to its original state. So I got to kind of keep that in mind. Okay, let's jump to the next question. Sorry, I threw you off there.
No worries. The next question is from Chris Widener in Lafayette, Indiana. Are you planning on spanning above to hold lights, backdrops, or cameras?
Yes. So what I'm going to do here is this is right above these, and attached to these here will be speed rail. So this will be, I'm trying to figure out the width, but it'll probably be 1.5 inch or 1.75 inch speed rail using Hollander connectors. And so it's very traditional grid. Like I thought about using the maker pipe and decided it just wasn't going to be to do what I wanted to do. I don't want to think about it. So it's going to be big speed rail that goes across the top. But then above that, I'm going to run some more maker pipe and go across the top. And the reason I'm going to do that is specifically so that I can hang all the blanketing or whatever diffusion above all of that, so that I have basically a space of like either 6 to 8 inches that's above the speed rail that is protected, so that I don't, you know, I'm not, but I can hang diffusion over top of it, because it's otherwise it'll be very echoey in here. And so anyway, so that's the plan, is to hang that. And I definitely plan to put cameras, as much routing as I can will all go into that that process. I'll put outlets in there, that type of thing, to be able to plug everything in. Yeah, go ahead, Sky.
Well, I'm wondering, could you hang by chain your speed rail from your beams that you have up there? So
yeah, I thought about that.
Yeah,
I think it'll be I thought about hanging. That's what the original plan was here, was to hang them from the beam. The beams are sizable, so they definitely hold it. But I decided that I'd rather just set them down on this. You know, like they're up pretty high. Like this may seem like a hard project, but hanging things from those beams would be big ladders and a Saturday.
The accordion required to like pull that down would be nuts. It'd
be a Saturday of swearing for me to put those things up, and so it would, you know, like I'd rather put them on top of the thing. I've thought about it many times of hanging something from there, but I don't think I'm going to do that here.
How high are the beams?
They're like 16 feet from me, and so there's a lot of me having to come down to stuff. Yeah,
that's some serious blue collaring, isn't it, Preto?
Yeah. Next question.
The next question is from Bo Cordell in Charleston, South Carolina. If your rack room and your office were in separate areas of a house, what cabling would you run to connect the two spaces?
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I'm dealing with this right now, and if you're doing it right, it's a whole bunch of Ethernet and hopefully nothing else. TAC 12 if you wanted to be really fancy.
Go, Rupert.
And I would run flexible conduit, so you can pull anything else through at a later date.
Yeah, it's already been run, so I actually have to back. It's been something I've been putting off for like a couple of years now, but I have to. It's already been. It's already been run. There's a couple strands of Cat 5 that were there when I got here. But what I need to do is put probably a couple runs of Cat 5. I'm going to put a couple coaxes just as a backup, and then I'm going to put a TAC 12 in there. So that's the plan to get between the two spaces. Next question.
Our next question is from Alan Scott in New Brunswick, Canada. Are you going to run power and network cable overhead with a loop down to the desk?
That is the plan. The plan is to do it with a loop. Go ahead, Jason.
I was interested about this very specific question too, because it's exactly the issue that I'm running into. I don't know whether I should go up from the floor or down from the ceiling for these two desks.
I will always go down from the ceiling if I can get away with it, because it's just way. I mean, the floor it's always a pain. You know, like you're always rolling over things, and so I will always come down from the ceiling if I can. Go ahead, Rupert.
So for power, you can get those kind of coiled cords that you can suspend from above, but just whether it's that or anything else hanging down, you've got to watch out for the strain relief and not put any pulling forces on outlets or plugs or anything like that.
And again, this is why I thought it'd be fun to talk about, is just that we can all be brainstorming and thinking about all the subjects that we need to think about as we kind of work through it.
Yeah. And Rupert inspired, like you see in a machine shop, those cables that are in that spring.
Or like in a garage or something like that.
Garage, yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Next question.
Our next question is from Rich Clemens in West Virginia. What is the shelf material and expected weight of items to be stored? Is maker pipe sufficiently sturdy?
Well, we're going to find out, aren't we? Because I'm going to put a lot of stuff on it. But a lot of times what I found is that it's not so much how sturdy a single piece of pipe is; it's the structure that you build it inside of. So, I mean, you could, and so the thing is that the maker pipe is going to have enough cross connections that I don't think that the weight is going to, and the boards are going to go all the way across, that weight is going to be pretty distributed. And it's not like I'm putting concrete blocks on it. So I don't think that, I believe that it will work. And if it doesn't, we'll do something else, but I think that I have a fair bit confidence that looking at a bunch of other stuff that people have made with maker pipe and thinking about it and playing with it at the hardware store, I think that with enough, it's just a matter of figuring out the weight points is more important than the material itself. Next question.
Next question is from Jonas Patel in Stuttgart, Germany. How many Mac Minis, Raspberry Pis are in your studio?
Go ahead, Jason. Nope, can't hear you, Jason.
Sorry, there we go. I can answer it for my studio. 4 Mac Minis and 2 Raspberry Pis on my build.
Yeah, and mine is probably going to be similar. 4 Mac Minis and either 2 or 4 Raspberry Pis. So that's kind of the plan at the moment, and possibly some microbits, that I'm going to use for a couple things. And so that's kind of what I'm planning to put together there. And I'm going to talk about this one more Monday, and then 2 Mondays from now, I should have the wiring diagram done. So we'll talk about the hardware behind it as well. So we'll kind of keep playing with all the ideas. Go ahead, Liberty.
I've got 1 Mac Mini and a Raspberry Pi that I'm waiting for the next lab to do that.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. We should do one soon. It'd be fun. Next question.
Our next question is from Christian Pure Mamelan, and I apologize if I said that incorrectly, from Wolfsburg in Germany. The maker pipe shelves need diagonal braces, by the way, like the wind bracing in steel construction.
Go, Rupert.
So, Alex, did you say you're not going up against the walls?
I am. Most of them are against walls.
Okay.
There's only one that's not.
So what I do when I'm putting anything against walls, like shelves specifically, I don't worry about the diagonal braces because I put 2 battens along the wall, one at low level, one at high level. Those do get fixed into the studs, and then I fix all my structures against those 2 battens. So I give myself a solid surface, and that kind of minimizes also the damage to the wall.
Yeah, I think my plan right now is, because I'm attaching the speed rail at the top, it's going to use and then I'm going to push the speed rail gently against the walls, that all that transverse stress is going to be, I think, sucked up among all of them, because I'm building a self-constructed square. So I don't think that they need the diagonals, but we'll find out. I could be wrong.
So all your pressure is up on the top. All that pushing is going to be 9 feet up.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, would you consider an IP controllable mix engine like the Allen and Heath DL Live, or would you use a mixer with faders?
I have an X32 that I plan to use right now, and I plan to keep using that. And then what I use for faders is I'm still working on, but right now most likely an X Touch is probably what I'm going to put in to run it. Go ahead, Jason.
I bought the X32 or the X32, the rack-mounted one, and I thought, no, forget this. If I'm going to learn it, I got the compact version, which is kind of all-in-one. It can't hide away as nicely, but boy, do I love the faders.
Yeah, what I don't like about that is I don't like to have my faders and my audio in and out in the same place.
Too much. It takes up a lot of space, and it's an inconvenient space.
It's all this analog that I now have to process, and so I can put the rack where it makes the most sense, and then I can put the rack where it makes the most sense, and then separately manage stuff. Like for one thing, like I'm not even sure, I may end up putting the X32 over with the synthesizers and just tie all that stuff in, and then just run it over and have an audinate connection.
See, that's
that is
my
mic.
plan. My I/O is like 3 things actually going into that mixer. All the rest of it is Dante.
Right. Well, it's all going to be, and so mine's going to have a lot more. And because most of the stuff that's going in are the synthesizers, I feel like I could probably do it over there, but I'm still thinking about that. Next question.
Our next question is from Talak Miguel Lopez Waterman in Astoria, New York. What is the safe amount of weight, lights, cable, miscellaneous to have overhead with this rig?
I just don't think it's going to be that much. I think that the heaviest weight is going to be the speed rail itself. The speed rail itself is going to be probably in the 200 or 300 pound range, and I think that's going to be, and that's my guess, is once you put 3-foot grids up there with speed rail, it's heavy. It may not be 200 or 300 pounds, but it'll be at least 200 pounds. So that's going to be the heaviest weight that sits up there, and then the rest of it will be maybe another. I mean, like I think everything else I put up there will be like 50 pounds. And so I think that it's not going to be, I mean, in a grand scheme of things, I've hung some pretty heavy things from drop ceilings. so I'm pretty clear of what I can and can't do in that area. Next question.
For a long time, or just for a short time?
Years.
When you hang
years.
Okay.
Yeah. Next question.
Our next question is from Jack B in Phoenix, Arizona. How will folks be routing cables with their maker pulled bills? If inside the conduit, how will you integrate it?
I will not put it inside the conduit because I don't know if I'll keep on changing it, and that'd be a lot. So so I'm probably I don't have that much to run along the. It's funny that he used conduit. To buy conduit and then not use it as conduit is a kind of a funny thing. So maybe I'll back off on that, but we'll see. But I feel like that would be difficult. Maybe some basic routing through the long pipes to get from one side to the other. Most of the piping itself doesn't need very much. It's just ornamental lighting is all that's going to be in the only electricity required in all those shelves is ornamental lighting. So it's not that much. Go ahead, Sky.
Well, immediately I thought of tacky twist ties or zip ties, but also that cable wrap, that spiraling plastic wrap that you could possibly use as well to tidy up your cables.
It'll probably be something pretty low profile. So what I'll probably end up doing is attaching it to the back. So the idea is if I attach it to the back bar, these back bars here, I can, you won't see it for the most part from the shelves. So I think that I can hide it pretty well. Next question.
Our next question is from Morgan Price in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. What do you put on wheels in your home office studio and why?
Go ahead, Jason.
This may be a mistake, but I'm going to put a lot of things on wheels, and then from there, I'm going to remove the wheels if I decide that I don't want them to move.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Anything that has to interface with wires, because you're going to have to get behind it to hook stuff up. And, my stereo system and all that stuff is in cabinets, but it's on wheels. And when I have to work on it, because it's just a mass of cables behind it, because it's all analog, you have to pull it away from the wall to work on it. And if it weren't on wheels, it would take me a day and a half just to get behind it to work on it. So anything that you have to work behind or get behind or hook things up or unhook things from, needs to be on wheel.
Go ahead, Rupert.
Just also a furniture moving dolly can be your best friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very
and I
much.
have a big, heavy one.
Yeah. I'm probably not going to put the shelving on wheels. I thought about it. I just felt like it's going to reduce stability and it's just going to be a thing. But definitely the desk. And when I build server racks, I almost always put them on wheels, just to Courtney's point, so I can get back to them. But it depends on how heavy they are. At some point, they get so heavy that you can't move them anyway. Next question.
Chris Widener in Lafayette, Indiana. What is your plan for desk power management power from underneath?
Go ahead, Rupert.
So I know these things have been discussed on Office Hours before, but these things are fantastic from IKEA. Once again, they just screw up from underneath. They're about 2.5 feet long, so you can get them, few of them under a desk, or just put them wherever you need them, or put them in a row. But they're great. You can put your cables up there, and they'll also support little power bricks or power adapters up under there, and they've kind of got those toothed arrangement there. So they're just really fantastic. I put them everywhere.
David Brady posted, I think, for TechFlex. So yeah, but I'm definitely
going to look at TechFlex. That's kind of cool.
I've not seen that before. So, but it looks. Oh yeah. Oh, these are kind of wrap sleeving. Yeah. Oh, I have never
it's
seen
braiding.
This.
Okay.
I have never seen that site before. Oh my gosh, it's worth doing this whole show.
Well, there goes $500 again.
Yeah. Right. Next question.
Our next question is from Andy Dolph in Durham, New Hampshire. Are you concerned about having the subwoofer mounted to the desk, how it will interact with the room acoustics in different places?
I sure am. And so I have a feeling that it won't work. So I'm thinking about it right now, but I am concerned that the subwoofer may have to have its own little space. The same thing with the tripod is that I think the tripod is going to be on wheels, but it's going to have some circular areas around the tripod. So as I move the whole thing, the whole tripod moves with the desk. But when I stop, I have to go over and just move it just a little bit to get it away from the things that it's sitting on. I think that I have to do that because I just don't think that I don't want to have something on that desk. I just feel like there's going to be vibration. Next question.
Our next question is from James Babbitt in San Diego. In your new studio, where are you using 80/20 and where are you using MakerPipe?
I've decided as a thought experiment to do almost everything in MakerPipe except for the speed rail above. So I'm going to give that a shot. It's less expensive than the 80/20, and it's not how I've built studios in the past, and I've thought about the 80/20, but I think from a cost perspective, right now, I can't afford the 80/20 to put it all there. And I also feel like I would be far more committed with the MakerPipe. If I don't like it, I'm going to turn it into shelves somewhere else in the house, or somewhere. I mean, there's so many things I can do with it that if I decide to move past this, very little of the material is lost. That's the big thing, is that I can. I do expect to probably. There'll be some time next year where I probably sit down with a arc welder, and actually build incredibly cool shelves and all kinds of other stuff when I know exactly what I want. What I love about this is that I can put it up for a relatively small amount of money and effort and play with the idea. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh man, an arc welder is one of the few things that I haven't accidentally burned my house down with. No, how much does 80/20 cost?
I don't know. It adds up. It'll add up. A lot more than EMT. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I'm concerned that with MakerPipe, it attaches with that one bolt through the center that kind of clamps into the pipe. What keeps the pipe from pulling out in an earthquake, so it would separate the individual pieces?
The fact that there's so many of them, so they're all interacting with each other. I think that it would, and it may not. I mean, if it's, I feel like, there's a lot of things in my house that would probably become dangerous if we got a major earthquake. So I just have to kind of live life to its fullest. So anyway, next question.
From Sky Gleason in Seattle, Washington. Does Rupert have suggestions of the type of boxes on his shelf? IKEA also has a lot of options for boxes on shelves.
Yeah, go ahead, Rupert.
I have not chosen to go with the IKEA storage totes. These ones back here in my office are just these ones from Home Depot. They're I don't use the lids, but I got them for cheaper than that. But I find that they work well for me.
Yeah.
And what shelving did you end up with?
I use the IKEA Ivar stuff that is out of stock at the moment, but I use this modular system. It comes in different heights and different depths, and you can kind of mix and match whatever you need.
That's great.
And is that a balsa? Not a balsa wood.
Balsa?
Sorry, that's it.
That would be amazing.
Balsa wood shelving right here.
I built the whole set in balsa wood. Yeah, that would be.
Really.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay.
That would be a.
What is the material?
The wood. Generic IKEA wood. I'm not sure, some kind of pine. I guess I'm not sure.
Okay.
balsa wood though is a good example. We had to build a bridge, of course, in high school that had a balsa wood, and I think mine held across 1 meter, and I think mine held. If I remember correctly, it was almost 200 pounds. so you can. It's just structure. Next question.
Hey, Michael's in Washington asks, anyone attending the classes today and tomorrow from the Chicago Fly House on rigging and hanging hardware? Links in the chat. As one of the premier training groups for production rigging, this could be a great place to ask about hanging things overhead.
Yeah, I'm not going, but it sounds great. I'll take a look at the link, and that'd be fun to see. Next question.
Our next question is from Rob Collins in Kansas City. What kind of legs are you planning to use to support all the weight the desk will carry?
Maker pipe until I decide that it's not strong enough. I actually think it'll probably hold it, and if not, I will reinforce it with either wood or speed rail. So we'll see what it looks like when I start to build it up. Go ahead, Jason.
So on my space, I made the decision about 3 months ago to use 3 of the heaviest monoprice lifting legs for my structure. And so far, I mean, me and my co-host, who weighs considerably more than I do, can sit on it, and it will go up and down without incident.
I mean, I have thought about that. There are some of those ones, those legs that just go up and down. And even though I may not do it very often, I have thought about that they just handle weight really well. So there's an outside chance that I'll use those. Next question.
Our next question is from Christian Pryor Mamalian from Wolfsburg, Germany. What solutions for shelves did the MakerPipe community come up with? Found, and then there is a link.
Yeah. So there's a lot of. I've been scrambling through a lot of those things to see what's what there. Next question.
Chris Fenwick in California asks, do you need a flag for your background? I ask because I know a guy.
I would need so many flags. I might have to build like lots of little wood flags up there. That would be a lot of fun.
I'll take a flag, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I would like to have one of those flags though. So let's talk about that. Next question.
From A. Mitchell in Washington, Mitchell's in Washington. Have you considered staggering your shelves along a grade so that the lowest shelf is much wider than the top shelf?
I have my brain doesn't
really hard with MakerPipe.
Yeah, with MakerPipe that would be difficult because everything's at an angle suddenly, and it would be a lot of things. It's not really built for that. So I think that would be hard for me to connect. It would also, my wife has a shelf like that in our bedroom, and it makes me crazy. Like my brain doesn't like that at all. Like it just looks at it and goes, I've learned to ignore it, but it still bothers me. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, and if your shelves extend down to the floor, start at the floor and go to the top, you're going to be tripping over the bottom shelf, stepping on stuff on the bottom shelf if you're trying to reach stuff on the top shelf.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Next question.
From Rupert McCrae in Dallas, Texas, should large metal conductive structures like grids or trusses be electrically ground bonded for safety?
I don't know. Would you know? If only we had someone that was an electrician.
I think in a fixed situation where power's involved, they probably should be. I think code would say, but whether it's classed as fixed or not is a matter of interpretation, I think.
Yeah, interesting. I'll have to think about that. I've built lots of metal structures without it, so I just haven't thought of that. But it's an interesting thought process. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, have you thought about using Dante or Wave Sound Grid to connect your synthesizers to your DAW?
Yeah, so I'm planning to use Dante for that. So Dante through the X32, and then that'll be available. Everything will be available to Logic. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, Alex, that's very impressive how you link the pipes precisely in CAD4. How do you precisely align objects when modeling? Is there a plan view?
There is a plan view. I have to admit, when I'm hacking, this is not what I would consider precision modeling. If you get really close to it, you're going to see, it just looks good right now. You can see a lot of things aren't quite precise here. It's just me hacking through things. But yeah, you can absolutely jump to different views. these are different views here that I've now broken because it's not the way it used to be. Anyway, so but I can definitely do display plan views and everything else as needed. So here's like the top view. So that's how you can kind of jump into it. And even now you can see, so I didn't line everything perfectly because a lot of times I work in perspective when I'm working at speed. And I'm just kind of like throwing things in there. And usually I'm like listening to something and talking to people and kind of fiddling with it is kind of the way I approach a lot of these things. Next question.
From Christian Prior Mammalian in Wolfsburg, Germany. When chopping up the maker pipe, the end should be cleanly reamed, especially when cables are being run through. Otherwise, the cable insulation might get cut up. There are tube reamers for a few bucks.
Go ahead, Rupert.
Yeah, there are those hand tools you can get for that, but I still wouldn't run cables inside.
Yeah, I think I'm going to keep them outside, but for the moment. But either way, I am going to deburr them all. so once I cut them, I just don't like handling them that way. So I'll cut them and then deburr them.
It only takes one metal splinter to never ever mess with that.
Takes all the fun out of it. Go ahead, Sky.
I'm just curious, are there plastic end caps that you can buy in a bag by the 100 just on the end?
I'm not going to put it on all of them, but I am going to put plastic end caps on the ground ones. so I'm going to, but I'm not going to try to end cap everything because that would be expensive. I mean, it adds up, at some point.
So they do exist. Those end caps.
They do exist. They make them.
Okay.
Yeah. Next question.
Our next question is from Stan Chan in Roseville. What can you make with 300 maker pipe T connectors?
Yeah, I'm getting pretty close. I think that when the dust settles, I don't know if I'll be at 300, but I ordered 100 and I feel like I probably shot short. So, but part of this modeling process and figuring this out before I buy more is for us to talk about this and think about it and everything else. And then I'll just count them all, because I'll have a whole bunch of them. I'll just sort and count, like how many do I actually need? And the models that I have in there are ones they supplied and I named them. So I can search by name, have them all show up, get a count, and know exactly how many I need for the process. And so I will know what I can build, but seem to be able to build a lot. Next question.
Our next question comes from George Butters in Halifax, Canada. A powered standing desk is a key element in my working space. Is there one or more in this planned space? Also, mention the issues with variable desk height and cabling.
Go ahead, Jason.
So it's actually easier than you think. I was concerned about this. In this space, there are two different standing desks, and you can buy various versions of what looks like a spinal cord that, as it goes down, it'll go up and down, and they are these little quadranted off, little segmented pieces of plastic. You will destroy your hands trying to put cables in there, and you will destroy your cables trying to get them in there. That's my experience. What I've done for my new space is I found that there are these little zip things that you can actually, instead of getting conduit that you have to thread stuff through, it actually comes with it's like a wetsuit and it has a zipper on it. I'm going to give that a shot.
Absolutely. Next question.
Our next question is from Craig McFarlane in Boston. Recommendation for the best conduit/EMT cutter.
Go ahead, Jason.
I'll bow out of this. I don't think I meant to say yes.
Go ahead, Rupert.
The best, you say? Well, this is the most expensive I could find, $2,700.
Wow.
I am going to be getting. I think I lost it in some move or somewhere, but I'm going to get a chop saw for it because I'm going to use it
Just
for a bunch
get
of
a
other
miter
things.
saw with the right blade.
So,
it can't be that hard.
Chop saws make this, because I need to cut the speed rail as well, and it really makes life easier. Next question.
From Christian Prior Mammalian in Wolfsburg, Germany. Regarding shelves, when I DIY'd shelves in the past, I modeled my structure to cheap IKEA boards. There's no cheaper wood available.
Go ahead, Rupert.
I have made a lot of shelves. I could do a whole second hour just on that. But I've settled on this system, like I've said many times, and I've looked at ways to build it more cost effectively. Raw materials, that it's impossible. This is the best source of even just raw material. It's actually pretty good, but as a system, it's unbeatable.
Yeah, Sky.
Well, and I think Rupert just answered my question. Would you be thinking ever metal? Would you ever put any sheet metal in there?
My only thing about sheet metal in there is it makes a lot of noise when you move things around. Like sheet metal just really makes a lot of noise. Like that's my big problem with it. And again, my thought process really got around. I thought about IKEA a lot because usually my first thought was I'm just gonna put a bunch of Billies up there or something like that. And I haven't seen Rupert's, so I'm gonna do some research for some of the other shelving units. But I really like the idea of building something that I could keep changing or adjusting and keep on moving.
The erector set?
Yeah, I'm interested in the erector set lifestyle, of this process of, and even if I want to, because the other thing I'm thinking about is, I have all these shelves. Those shelves are their own grids. So I can literally, I want to hang something and stick something out from the front of the shelf to have a little overhead camera. I want to do something else like that. And all that stuff is just all there. I can just keep on adding things to it. And, especially I looked at MakerPipe put up a thing about Podcast Studio, which is a little rough from my perspective, but like, it's the kind of thing that you would make if you don't do this all the time, but you have MakerPipe. So I was like, okay, but it gave me some ideas about how to mount cameras and stuff like that. So I think that I'm interested in being able to constantly put that together. Yeah, go ahead, Courtney.
Do the shelves have lips on them for the front edge so that you could hide an LED strip, adhesive strip of LED for lighting the shelves?
They do now.
Base back. now that I mentioned it.
Now that you mentioned it, they're going to have them. Yeah. I mean, that's why it's specifically, this is why I wanted to start having this discussion with all of us rather than just me, is that I thought it'd be more fun if we all think about, you guys are going to come up with, in the same way that everyone here is smarter than me on almost most things. As a group, we all just kind of think through it. So I'm looking for suggestions. That's a great idea. And I'll probably steal that, put it in there. So when we have the lips, it'll now be the front lip by Courtney. I don't know if that makes sense.
You need a giant clock too, Alex.
Yeah, exactly. Next question.
From Chris Widener in Lafayette, Indiana. Parts of IKEA seem like a good fit for MakerPipe, either desktops or possible drawers like an Alex.
Yeah, go Rupert.
So the IKEA desktops, I believe they do a couple of solid ones, but in general, the IKEA tops are all basically hollow. So
yeah, they're terrible.
They make nice flat surfaces, but nothing really with any strength, or particularly if you're going to drill holes through it. Maybe they do a couple of solid ones. I'm not sure, but IKEA drawers, again, they're pretty lightweight. I mean, they're designed for sort of clothes typically, but as soon as you try and use them for anything,
we use them.
Even mildly duty, they just start falling apart in my experience.
If you watch the old MacBreak videos, that's a peanut that you get from the peanut top, we called it, from IKEA. We used to buy them all over the world because we knew that you could go to IKEA and get a peanut top. It was just like, it wasn't perfectly straight. It was like got some curves to it and so on and so forth. But yeah, it would not hold weight. Go ahead, Jason.
Fenwick found, I believe, exactly one thing in IKEA that he said was, and I quote, a respectable piece of wood. And the rest of it, he said, was just terrible.
Go ahead, Sky, real quick.
Yes, it's disposable, and they make it that way. They understand. Also, that hollow door concept, when we used to get IKEA, it used to be all the press wood, but it was a shipping container thing that they were able to do. They didn't care about the size, they cared about the weight. And so that's why they now make all of their items through that hollow door concept. So no, it's not going to hold weight, but it's going to be structurally sound for the bucks, for the few bucks you pay.
Next question.
Sorry about that. Douglas Carmichael asked, when would you use speed rail or 80/20 instead of MakerPipe?
I actually think the speed rail, when we need heat, when we need real weight and also something to clamp onto. For 80/20, if I really design this out, it has more structure and actually more flexibility of attachments than MakerPipe. So there's definitely advantages to using 80/20. When we build stuff in the office, like I wouldn't build this studio in my office with MakerPipe. I'm making it at home with MakerPipe. I wouldn't, in this I would build it all with 80/20, maybe a little bit of speed rail. So it just depends on, it also depends on like who's walking through. So MakerPipe's really cool, but I don't think that I wouldn't consider it client facing in the current structure until I get good at it. Maybe I'll get good at it and make it look so good that I'll go, it's now client facing because I know how to make it look good. But right now I haven't seen a lot that I would on their website that I would put in front of my clients. Next question.
From Christian Pryor Mamalian in Wolfsburg, Germany. Not a question, rather a thought. I am quite OCD with my cabling. In a former job supporting ATM software, I learned to separate power cables from signal cables. So no mix of power and USB network and no power cable rings.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, you're not wrong. All I'm going to say is you're not wrong. If you have XLR, you of course don't ever want to run at a right angle with power because you will very quickly
you want to run
pick
at
it
a
up.
right angle. You don't want to
I'm
run
sorry,
parallel.
you want to run it at a right angle. You don't want to run them parallel. Yeah.
Go ahead, Rupert.
And for, again, fixed installations in many areas or regions, it's actually code, wiring code that these things be separated.
Yeah, I will, as I wire it up, I will do everything I can. Some places you just kind of have to have them together. But I will do everything I can to keep signal and power in as many different places as possible. And then there'll be a handful of places where they're just spaced out, but they will be spaced out. It's definitely something I'm a little fanatical about, probably overly fanatical. Next question.
From Douglas Carmichael, what does everyone think of mono price for a solid 15 to 18 U rack?
Go ahead, Jason, real quick.
It's perfectly fine.
Next question.
This question comes from Douglas Carmichael. What would be the most straightforward studio building tool set for someone not as mechanically inclined? MakerPipe or 80/20?
Go ahead, Rupert.
Just refer back to this IKEA stuff. It's very adaptable, and you can just hack it around and build whatever you want with it.
If I was choosing between MakerPipe and 80/20, I would definitely use MakerPipe. Like 80/20 is a plan. Like there's so many options, and there's so many different kinds of MakerPipe, and there's not MakerPipe, 80/20, and which one matters, and thinking about those things. And I don't even design my own 80/20 stuff. I have Cabinet Works do it. I tell them what I want, and I send them a rough model like what you're seeing here, and then they send me back a CAD drawing, and then I pay them for it. Like I don't try to figure it out. 80/20 is no joke when it comes to like figuring out the architecture. It's amazing once it's built, but it's not something that you waste I can speak from experience. You can waste an enormous amount of money, thousands of dollars in one fell swoop with 80/20 by buying the wrong thing, thinking you're going to save money by doing it yourself. It's just not worth it. Like you got to hire someone who's built 80/20 before. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, 80/20 mentions they will provide design assistant services. Have you had any experience with them?
I just use Cabinet Works in Ohio. Like that. I don't know about, maybe 80/20 will do that for us, but they have it all in their CAD system. So like literally everything that you would ever need, they just kind of lock out and draw out and everything else. And, the only person I might try to ping, and I just don't know how much he's done, is like someone like Chris Fritchie or something, someone who really is CAD that I can work with. But I haven't worked directly with 80/20. Next question.
Our last question of the day comes from Douglas Carmichael. Could you use 80/20 to build an office desk that could support a musical keyboard, monitor, standard keyboard, mixer, etc.?
Go ahead, Jason.
The answer is you couldn't if you're asking this question. It is absolutely doable. But again, no joke, it is very complicated and very expensive, especially if you get it wrong.
Yeah, it's really worth, like, this is something that you want to assist somebody who knows how to do it for a while before you go down that path. So anyway, that's my recommendation. It's super cool and super powerful, but it is something that is a heavier lift than most things. So but I've seen many a rack and many a desk built with 80/20. So it's a very, very and entire studios are all built with it, like in all the control rooms. All the studios inside of trucks, everything. I mean, it's a very, very powerful tool, but with great power comes great responsibility. Anyway, hopefully that was useful for everybody. We got a lot of questions, a lot of comments. Again, in Discord, I'll find somewhere. I'll work with Chad on finding either a new little channel or something, or something around studio design that we can all post ideas. Hopefully this kind of gets our creative juices going, thinking about it. In that space, I will throw the models in here so that you can disagree with me visually. If you have a better idea, show it to me. This is not what I'm going to build. This is what I'm starting with as an idea. So I gotta, I gotta price things out. I gotta figure a bunch of other things out. I gotta, there's a whole bunch of things that happen between now and when I actually build it, which will be sometime in January. And so my thought is we just keep talking about it and keep on working on the models, and the desk itself will be a whole design process because it has so many things in it. So anyway, so we'll keep on talking about it. And, but thanks to the producers for all of the great questions and comments and everything else. I wasn't sure whether this would get people excited or not. Seems like at least some people were really interested in it. So we'll keep on talking about it and hopefully learning together. And thanks to the panelists for all your great comments and contributing every day to everybody's knowledge. And now we're going to jump into after hours. Remember, tomorrow we'll talk about audio setups, and then on Wednesday we'll be talking about $5,000 kits, which is not this one. so anyway, so we'll talk about that on Wednesday. All right. Oh, sorry. One last thing, real quick. 2:00 streaming discussion. We have a special guest. 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Streaming discussion. We have a special guest. I can't say who it is.
In after hours.
In after hours. It will not be
Copy.
recorded. It will not be repeated. What happens in after hours stays in after hours. But it would be really, if you're really into streaming.
Pacific, 2 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah. It'd be
Thank you.
useful. All right. See you in after hours.